Osama bin Laden's mother, Alia Ghanem, has spoken for the first time. She recently talked with reporter Martin Chulov in an exclusive interview for The Guardian. Bin Laden, of course, was the mastermind behind the 9/11 attacks that left thousands dead. He was killed by U.S. Navy SEALs in 2011. And The Guardian's Martin Chulov joins me now from Beirut. Martin, what exactly did bin Laden's mother have to say about her son?
Well, she described in great detail about his childhood. She said he was an engaging, pious, studious child, somebody who loved her very much, somebody who was a mentor to his younger brothers and sister, and somebody who was basically the love of her life. He lost his way, according to her, at university, where he went from being a pious, young, devoted Muslim lad to being somebody who was deeply into fundamentalist zealotry.
You know, so much of this article, it feels like she blamed other people, that he was brainwashed, and that's really why he became the person he did. You also spoke to other members of the bin Laden family. Do they share that same opinion?
There were two half-brothers in the room, and they were quite emphatic that Osama was the master of his own destiny. Yes, he did fall in with the Muslim Brotherhood while at university, but he chose the path that he later took. They said that when they saw these harrowing images of the Twin Towers in New York and the Pentagon burning in Washington, they understood instinctively that it was their brother who was responsible for it. They'd warned him many times that he was on a path to ruin, not just for himself, but for the family. And their reflections were far less emotional than that of their mother. They said he was a man who chose his path, and he'd caused great stress and harm for the family for the last 17 years.
It's pretty remarkable, Martin, to hear you say that the brothers knew right away that when they saw the Twin Towers coming down that it was bin Laden. How were they so certain?
Yeah, it was interesting. I pressed them on this, and there was a lot of looking at their feet. It was a very hard thing for them to confront. On one hand, this interview was almost cathartic for them, but on the other hand, it was very painful because they'd never spoken publicly, and they were aware of the ramifications of their words. So as best as I could press them on this, there was a moment of deep reflection, deep shock, deep sadness, and deep anger almost, all blended into one when they were called to the television on September 11, 2001, and witnessed what was taking place. They knew that this was the culmination of a lifelong journey towards radicalization that their formerly beloved older brother had taken.
Bin Laden's mom hasn't spoken in years. Why do you think she agreed to sit down and do this interview?
It was a process of negotiations that went on for about 10 months in a state as authoritarian as Saudi Arabia. We need to have buy-in from the state, and we did ask for permission. That took a long time to come, and then we had to approach the family. And I think the family's motivations were twofold. Firstly, there was an element of we need to restore some sense of legitimacy, not just in Saudi society, but perhaps in globalized as well. They are a very powerful family, very well connected in Saudi Arabia. The bin Laden clan basically built a lot of the country. They're deeply woven into the establishment. But there's a second factor too, and that is that the three older bin Laden brothers were locked up by the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman last year and accused of being involved in widespread graft. So the family have the stigma of Osama, and now they have the fact that the three brothers were in prison to deal with as well, and they are looking at on some level to restore some leverage or patronage with the House of Saud.
You know, you write about how the mother and the family members were able to see bin Laden at one point. Why do you think it is that the family was able to see him, and for so long Western intelligence couldn't find him?
It's very interesting. They saw him twice in 1999 in Kandahar at the airport in a base that the Russians used to run. And this, it must be borne in mind, was more than a year after the attacks on the U.S. embassies in Tanzania and Kenya, and also the missile strike that President Clinton ordered on bases in Kandahar and Kabul that were run by al-Qaeda. So a year after that, the family were able to find their man, but Western intelligence couldn't. Now, I find it difficult to believe that the Saudi leadership at the time didn't know that the family were going to visit Osama, and I do believe that there was a message passed on to him. They didn't acknowledge that, but I think that would have been part of the consideration at the time. You go and tell him something for us, and we'll let you go, and we'll let you come back.
Yeah, nothing happens, especially if you're living in Saudi Arabia, without them knowing and being aware, especially when you know Western intelligence at this high level are looking for them. Do you believe that the Saudis were in cahoots with the bin Laden family?
In the Afghanistan years, I think it's very clear, this is the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan, that there was extensive support from the state of Saudi Arabia for the Afghan Mujahideen, and Osama bin Laden was front and center, especially towards the end years of that occupation. I don't think that's in any real dispute. Beyond that, though, there has been a dispute led by claimants of victims of 9/11 that the House of Saud was directly involved in the lead-up and preparation of 9/11, and that Osama bin Laden, rather than being an outcast, was an agent. That's something that we've looked at for many years. I must say that premise was not reinforced by speaking to the family, and certainly not through discussions I've had in the lead-up, both with former Saudi officials, current officials, and Western officials. It is totally clear that that Saudi Arabia over the last 38 years exported a form of the faith that underwrote global jihad, but I'm not yet convinced that there is any direct causal link between them and bin Laden and them and 9/11.
You know, bin Laden's son has been designated a global terrorist by the U.S. Do they know where he is, and does the bin Laden family even address him at all?
They did talk about Hamza bin Laden, who is the heir apparent to Osama, according to the half-brothers. He has said that he will step up and avenge his father's death, and it does appear that he's committed his young life to doing that. There was some talk last year that he was in Pakistan, and I don't think that's likely. I think it's more likely Afghanistan, where he is effectively deputy to Ayman al-Zawahiri, who was Osama's deputy and is now the leader of al-Qaeda. He's maintaining a very low profile. The family say plausibly that they have had no contact from him whatsoever. They did say, and this is something that I didn't have space to publish, that they do believe that he has married the daughter of Mohamed Atta, who was the lead hijacker in 9/11. So what that would say is that the 9/11 alumni remains very viable and very real, even 17 years after the fact.
Fascinating point. Martin Chulov, fascinating interview. Thank you so much for joining us at CBSN to bring this to us.
You're welcome.